Hello, welcome to the first video where we will be looking at the Anatomage table at Huntington University. And this is a very useful tool because it has scans of 4 real-life cadavers, so you get to see what these body systems look like in real life. And here to assist us is one of the biology professors who also is an advisor for pre-med and teaches anatomy and physiology here at Huntington University, Dr. Bruce Evans.
And I also happen to be your teacher's dad. So this is one of the 4 bodies. This is an Asian woman. There's an Asian woman, Asian man. They're both South Korean. And then there's also a Caucasian male and Caucasian female, which are both American. They're loaded in here. So we're primarily today going to be looking at the respiratory system. So I can do a lot of things with this. I'm going to start by isolating that system. I can take any of the systems and I can isolate them. So I'm going to do that. We'll get rid of her completely, and then we'll go to the respiratory system, and now you can see it. So we can bring this down here. We can make this much bigger so you can see it. And then we can turn it around a little bit. I'll turn it a little bit so that you can see here, this is going to be the voice box up here. So your voice box has a thyroid cartilage, the main one that you can touch or palpate, and then it has one down here called the cricoid cartilage, which then leads down into the trachea, and you can see all the trachea rings. So if I turn it all the way around, I can also see that guy, which is the epiglottis. The epiglottis is going to be the flap that allows food to go down your esophagus instead of down into your lungs. So that's a highly useful thing. So then we can see this trachea comes down here. On the back side of the trachea, you can see there's kind of a groove there. That's where there's no cartilage ring. It doesn't go all the way around. And that little groove there, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but we can see it here. There's a groove there where the esophagus will sit. It seems to be a little bit too bright on there and washed out, but this is where the esophagus would be. If I want to, let's do something, let's get rid of this lung. I get rid of the lobe of the lung. I can get rid of the lobes of the lung here. You notice there are 3 on the right and 2 on the left. You notice that the right primary bronchus, this one that branches down here, is going to be almost straight toward the toes. If I come over here, I will see on the left side, it's more lateral. So many times if people get something stuck in here, it's going to be stuck on the right side more than the left. You can also see the branches. I'm just going to label them. So now you can see there's a secondary bronchus. If I come out here, I put the lung back. Let's undo that. But you can see all these are tertiary branches. Then there are quaternary branches, etc., up to 23 levels of branching till you get to the alveoli. So lots and lots of branching. You could follow the blood vessels here if we had them. Obviously, we didn't isolate those. But the blood vessels are going to be immensely branching and following these to the alveoli. So we can see lung tissue. If we want to look inside lung tissue, we really don't see much, but I'm going to cut this, get rid of that, flip this up, and we can see there, you can see these are probably some of the spaces. That's also possible that that's black from smoking. Yeah, if I make it a little bigger, I don't know if this guy was a smoker, this woman was a smoker or not. I don't know if that black is actually from smoking or if it's just the spaces from the tubular system of the bronchi and bronchioles. I think that's probably all we need to see on the respiratory system. Was there anything else you wanted to know?
No, that's about it for respiratory system. Respiratory system is generally simple.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Next, we can do
store all that and get rid of that, and then we're going to do digestive system.
cardiovascular.
Oh, cardiovascular, sorry. So we'll get rid of that. We'll do cardiovascular. And this is,
zoom out a little bit.
if we do that, we bring it back to, here's the body size. Can you see that?
No.
Go turn the lights off, see
Yeah,
what happens.
this is where we have to turn the light.
I think we played with this a little bit and found that
We did.
the lights are off, and gosh, if those were closed. There's glare from the windows. But this is the cardiovascular system. In this cadaver, in the real body, the blood is red. The blood is red in the veins, the blood is red in the arteries. But here they've artificially colored it so that you can tell the difference between the two. And you can see it follow, it goes everywhere. Here's your heart, there is your descending aorta that comes down here, then it branches off in here into the external iliacs, down into the femur, and so somewhere down here they'll start calling this a femoral. There we go, the left femoral. You can isolate, there's the femoral artery, which then has branches, which all have names, and if you're a good surgeon, you know the names. All right, let's get rid of that. And then if we come up here, we can also see here, we look at this and we see you can see all those blood vessels going to the kidneys. You can see it outlining the kidneys. So let's do a little bit here. Let's get rid of, I'm just going to get rid of the veins. Not because they're important, but because we just, if you just look at the arteries, you can see things a little bit easier.
Except for one vein.
Yeah, we've got the vena cava here. So you've got one vein here. But we can see, here's the heart. And here you can see branches coming off of here. You can see a common carotid going up to the brain. You can see this brachiocephalic leading to a common carotid to come up to the brain on the right side. And that branches off into the limb, into the shoulder here, the arm here, the forearm down here. You can see this one going off to the left side. The left subclavian is going to go off underneath the clavicle, going out into the shoulder, arm, forearm, hand, etc., right? If we just come up here and we look up here, I don't know how well you can see this, but you can see these, there are 4 major arteries coming up to feed the brain.
If you highlight them, it'll definitely show
I'm
up.
trying to highlight. It won't really let me do it.
Does it go just by touch?
There's one. It let me, yeah, you have to touch in exactly the right place, and I find them good. So this is a right internal carotid. The internal carotids branch off the common carotids, and they feed the brain. This, if I try to just turn it a little bit.
A little pen.
If I look at that, I can see that's going up here. I can see also there's something going around right here. That should be the if I can isolate that. It says left petrous portion of the internal carotid. That's the last portion of the internal carotid from the left side. So the right internal carotid, left internal carotid, and then there are 2 vertebral arteries that come up here to the base of the brain and form a structure called the circle of Willis, like the Willis Tower in Chicago. And then it branches off from there to all these arteries that supply the brain. So I know that doesn't work very well for me, actually.
Well, it's for the iPad, so.
I'm going to go back to this size because then I'm a little bit better at looking at knowing what I'm looking at here in the sizes. So when you think about this, you think about branches here. If I can just isolate some of these branches off of the dorsal aorta, right? Now there's the dorsal aorta. I could just isolate that branch. Well, tell me, there's gastroduodenal. That means it's going to the duodenum, it's going to the stomach. Here's hepatic, going to the liver. And also cystic is going to branch off of that and go to the gallbladder. So if I come over here, here's a gastric. All of these are supplying the viscera of the abdomen. And if I can label that one down here, something hell, it's really not letting me do it. There it is. There, it lets me label that one. That's called the superior mesenteric, and that's supplying mostly small intestine. And if I come down here, there's the inferior mesenteric, which is supplying mostly large intestine. So we can see all of the branches that are coming off of that aorta are very important for the organs they serve. And if I can isolate that little guy, there's the renal. That's going out here, branching off into the kidneys.
Do each of the kidney branches have their own name, or is it just the renal cluster?
Oh, no, there are, once you get into the kidney, the renals go into the kidney at a space called the hilum on the medial side.
Yeah.
And then they start to branch off, and each one of them has specific names. The first branch is the segmentals, and then you've got several other branches.
We don't learn that.
No, you don't need to know those. But take note of this up here. If you look at all that, there's the blood vessels. It says right inferior pulmonary, right? We saw the branching of the bronchi and bronchioles into the lungs. Now you see here's branching of the arteries into the lungs as well. And this is not fine enough detail to see all the capillaries. Certainly you can't see that.
No, those are 1 or 2 cells across.
I get rid of the heart,
Oh, we got another vein there.
and then look there, you can see that a little better. So it did not get rid of the aortic arch or the aorta. Okay, that ought to do it for just looking at arteries. If we looked at the veins, we'd see pretty much the same patterns. There's subtle differences.
Now we can at least just look at the
What do you want to look
general,
at?
just throw up veins and show, here's
Do veins?
generally what veins look
Okay,
like.
let's get rid of the arteries and do veins. So, cardiovascular, coronary arteries, 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 arteries.
So there's generally what veins look like. Pretty much the same, but much larger, much lower pressure.
Yeah, veins are going to have more volume in them. They are volume reservoirs, capacity reservoirs for your blood. And like Mr. Evans said, the arteries have much higher pressure. They also have less volume.
Which is why the veins have to have those valves on them to prevent backwash, because they don't have pressure pushing it in one direction.
Yeah, their pressure is really pitiful. They have to have help. But this body is designed for that to work very well, and it does.
All right, let's look at the heart.
Just the heart itself. Okay, let's see what we can do here.
Yeah.
And just, I don't get rid of enough. No, maybe not. Let's get rid of the rest. So if we isolate the heart, there it is.
Can we add the aortic arch back too? And vena cava if you can.
Let's see, I think, there we go. Add the great vessels.
There we
Yeah.
go.
So now you can see, if we enlarge this, bring it down here, you can see here is the descending aorta, which means up there, that's the aortic arch. This is the vena cava, the inferior vena cava, there's the superior vena cava. These two are bringing blood into the right atrium. The blood comes into the right atrium, goes down into the right ventricle, gets pumped out into the, let's get rid of pericardium. So now you can see a little bit more. We took out the pericardial sac. You see a little bit more what this looks like. It's got fat on it, epicardial fat.
There we go.
Does that help?
The heart's pretty much white, so we don't need the lights off anymore. It's much easier to see.
And so now I've removed the epicardial fat, and now you can see a little bit more below that, right? And all of our hearts have fat on them. If you are obese, you probably are going to have more fat on it, which causes the heart to work harder. So it's not a great idea. But here we have the right auricle, the right atrium coming down into the right ventricle, and the right ventricle then is going to be connected, you can see right there, to the pulmonary trunk. And that pulmonary trunk, if I make that larger, it might help a little bit. The pulmonary trunk is then going to lead out into these pulmonary arteries on either side.
Splits into left and right.
Yeah, so left and right, the label, there we go. So you can see what the pulmonary comes from the right ventricle, pulmonary trunk splits left and right and goes out to the lungs.
Are you able to see pulmonary veins buttons on here?
Well, I'm gonna turn this around and see what we can see. If I can get
Should
rid
be
of
able
the,
to.
if I can get rid of the pulmonary arteries.
I don't think you can because they're all on great. Oh, yeah. Left inferior pulmonary, right inferior
Yeah, but I
pulmonary.
don't know, we may be, see, so what do we have here? There's a left pulmonary,
That looks like it's coming up the right.
yeah, and well, it is.
So that would be an artery.
There's an auricle. So we ought to have, on the posterior side of this left atrium, we ought to have,
Right there.
Right
you can
there,
see
yeah.
where it goes in.
that one is where a vein was connected.
Yeah.
That's where a pulmonary vein, because the pulmonary veins have to come in, well, it doesn't matter which side, they're both coming in. Both sides are coming into the left atrium. Left atrium leads down to the left ventricle here. Turn that around a little bit, we can see that the left ventricle then connects to this, which is the aorta. You see how that connects from the left ventricle? Ascending aorta to the aortic arch, gives off those three branches we saw before, and then leads down to the rest of the body to the descending aorta. And we need to look at,
Dissect the heart. Open it up. Let's look at the inside of the.
okay, which way do you want to cut it?
Let's cut it. So that you
Let's,
can see.
okay, let's cut it, I know what to do. Cut it this way.
Yeah, that's kind of.
So we've cut it through, and you can see, here is the, I think I've cut it through, no, I actually cut it through right side atrium and right side ventricle.
Here you can see tricuspid.
Yeah, you can see the nice tricuspid valve here. You can see chordae tendineae to hold it in place. These are called papillary muscles here. Go ahead.
And here especially, you can see like you have one flap, two flaps, and three flaps. You can see how all three flaps, why it's called the tricuspid, the three different parts, three different flaps.
Three cusps. And they come together and then they connect to that pulmonary trunk. And the right side, look at the thickness of the wall. You can see that. Let's do a cut through the left side over here. Take a look at that, and now you see there's the left ventricle. Look at the size of that wall. That's this thick. And remember, the left side and right side both pump the same volume of blood with every heartbeat, same volume, but the left side has to pump all over the body through systemic circulation, and therefore it's higher pressure and needs thicker walls. That's why you see that immense difference in the walls of the two ventricles. Okay, we're good with that.
Yep,
Right.
and the last system that we are going to do is nervous.
So here's the entire nervous
With
system.
these scary little eyes.
Yep. Can you see? I don't know if you can see them well.
Well, we can't turn the lights off on this because these are white. They'll just wash out.
Yeah. So what we can see, here's the brain, here's the spinal cord, which is within the spinal column. The spinal column is the bone. The spinal cord is the nervous system, which has neuron projections, axons running up and down it. It also has neuron cell bodies, which are sending axons out into the periphery.
You can also see a huge collection of nerves right here where your heart would be.
Yeah.
Very important to have nerves right there.
Yeah. And you can see this kind of, as it gets towards your tailbone, it frays out, and they call that the cauda equina, or a tail of the
Horse's
horse.
tail.
And so it kind of frays here
Yeah, cauda
and
equina.
spreads out, and it feeds that part of the body. We can see out here we have, come on,
Sciatic.
there was one that's coming from, it has several inputs from the lower areas of the spinal cord and goes out into your limb. Here's the thigh, but then it branches also down into your leg. Your leg is only knee to ankle. Your thigh is or femoral area is the part between your hip and your knee. So we can also see, if we turn it, we can see that this branch right here, that branch right there, that branch right there, which every time I touch it, it turns. But those branches are going out. You can see that would be representing where each of your ribs is. This segment's according to your ribs and according to your vertebrae and according to your nerves. They're all the same, right? You can see they match. I'm gonna take you up here. You want to just take a look at the brain?
Yeah, we can take a look at the brain and cranial nerves. That's fine.
Okay. Leave the cranial nerves, get rid of these and this spinal nerve.
And then probably after this, we can just take a look at brachial plexus, since doctors love learning about the brachial plexus.
Yeah, so I think I've done this right. So you can, here's old bug eyes, right? And you can see if I bring them up like that, bring them down here, you can see the eyes.
Isn't there a way you can just automatically flip that straight up?
Yeah, I can do that.
Ah, there we go.
Want it,
Yeah, and
then expand it.
yeah. Kind of trouble. Oh, there the eyes are coming out. So
So if you look at the eyes here, there is an optic nerve down there, which it highlighted the lobe of the brain, but if I could just highlight that, there it is, optic nerve. There's an optic nerve that it's getting washed out in the video.
but right here you have optic nerve. Oh,
Yeah.
I will. There we go. Optic nerve right there behind each of the eyes.
So that is cranial nerve number 2. We also have, there's an olfactory bulb right there, which it highlighted the whole lobe, but there's a little bitty bulb there, which is the olfactory bulb, which is
There we go.
related to
Right here.
cranial nerve number 1. All those nerves, the actual nerve comes up through your skull from your nose and goes up to the bulb, the olfactory bulb.
Which, when we do our sheep brains, that's the little area that we have on each side of the hemisphere right here. Those are your olfactory bulbs.
And you can see there's nerve number 2. Then we have a number of cranial nerves that are coming from the brainstem itself. What it highlighted here is the pons. The pons is here, the medulla is down here, the spinal cord is down here. So that's the brainstem. And coming out of that brainstem, including midbrain, are a number of nerves that are going to go out into this area. Some of which are going to go move the eyeballs. Those are nerves 3, 4, and 6. 5 and 7 are going to go out to your face and do the sensory and motor of your face and have a little bit of sensation of taste as well.
But there's one that leaves the brain area.
Yeah,
One of the most important ones.
The only one that's going to leave and come down here into the thorax and abdomen is the vagus, which is nerve number 10. So that's all of the cranial nerves leave the brain. Then if you get down here into the spinal cord, let's get rid of the cranial nerves and let's get the spinal nerves. There's the spinal nerves. So spinal nerves leave, none of them leave from the brain, they all leave from between vertebrae down here.
And just like vertebrae, they're named like them, correct? T1,
Yeah.
T2, T3.
Yeah. Funny thing is though, you have 7 cervical vertebrae, you have 8 cervical nerves, which is a weird number, but yep, it's the way we've named it. All right, let's see. Let's just take a slice through this brain. I'm gonna cut it right down the middle. On one side, turn it to this side, and this. You have a model like this in your lab?
We have one that's colored for the different lobes, but we don't have one that is just like white. We don't have one like you have.
So you can see here's the thalamus in the middle. You can see the corpus callosum there. Yeah, if you can make that, can you turn the lights off and see what it looks like? It's kind of washed out on there.
It'll probably wash it out, yeah.
Yeah,
even
that's
more.
washed out even more. All right.
Is there any way to turn on these middle ones?
Wait a minute. What does that do? That's
Yeah.
better.
If you give it more light, it won't wash it out as much.
That's better.
So maybe
Okay.
we should go back and just quickly look at the heart on this too, because that
Right.
one was
So
kind of
this
washed
is
out.
the thalamus. Yeah, I think you can see that here. There's the corpus callosum, which helps to connect left and right sides of the brain. So we have back here occipital lobe, we have up here parietal lobe, and then we have this, and you notice the frontal lobe is pretty large. And there's your frontal lobe. Back here is the cerebellum, and then right through here you're going to have the brainstem. Medulla down here, pons here, and then midbrain. It gave me the temporal lobe because that's out here. But if I could, there it is, midbrain right there. So there's the temporal lobe from that side. If I could see right there, if it'll let me do it, there's the hypothalamus, inferior to the thalamus, and then hanging off of that would be the pituitary gland. All right, what do you want to go back and see the heart like
let's
this?
see if we can go back and do the heart, because that one is almost same as the brain, a very, very light. Oh, it's kind of interesting.
What's that?
There's a slice through your body.
Yeah.
You can see, here's the heart down here. That's liver. That's heart.
Yeah.
So liver down here, heart. You can see how your backbone runs through here. What else can you see? You can see little bits of ribs here.
Yep, see ribs there, and you see there's subcutaneous fat, right?
Yeah.
Tongue.
Giant tongue. Mouth. You can see how your nasal passages then connect back to the nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx.
And down in the esophagus and
Yeah.
out to the lungs. So what were we doing? We were doing the heart.
Heart.
So
Yep.
let's get rid of that and do cardiovascular.
I see the meninges there with that too. But oh well.
I don't know if you can get rid of all that.
They looked like there was a
See.
skull and then there was something beneath the skull. But, oh gosh, yeah, that is nice.
Okay, so now you can see the heart.
Really nice here that you
Yeah.
can see the valve. This looks
And
so
that's
much nicer than we were doing.
Yeah, well, it's just the same thing, because this is the cut through the right atrium and right ventricle.
Yeah.
And then if we do a slice over here, and get rid of that,
Yeah.
it's too big.
Yeah.
Now we can see,
We want it a little bit bigger, but yeah, something
use two fingers, there you
Yeah.
go.
a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, let's go with something like that. That should show
And you
up
see 1,
decently.
2, 3 cusps, you see a nice,
Yeah.
and you see thin walls here. So think of, it's so big, if I try to turn it, it goes way wackadoodle. I'm just trying to get to the left side.
Yeah, there, oh gosh, yeah, that's all wall. So you can definitely see
And now you can see the thick wall of the left ventricle.
that entire thing, very thick walls.
Yep. Okay, we're good.
All right. Join us for our next video. We are going to be doing digestive system, urinary system, and reproductive system. So hope to see you in our next video.